Welcome back to our English Learning Podcast. Today's episode is designed for CEFR level, B1 learners. We have a wonderful topic to discuss today, and it is something that almost every single English learner struggles with at some point. We are going to talk about how to stop translating in your head and how to start actually thinking in English.
That is such an important topic. I know so many students who get stuck because of this exact problem. But before we dive deep into the lesson, I think we should quickly introduce ourselves for any new listeners joining us today.
Yes, of course. I am Lisa, and I have been teaching English and helping students improve their spoken confidence for many years now.
And I am James. My focus is on practical everyday English that you can use in real conversations with real people.
Perfect. So let us start with the biggest problem our learners face. Why do people translate in their heads, and why is it such a bad habit?
That is the perfect question to start with. Most people start translating because it feels safe. When you begin learning a language, you learn that the English word cat means the same thing as the word for cat in your native language. You build a bridge between your native language and English. But as you get to an intermediate level, like B1, this bridge becomes a very slow road.
Exactly. It is like you are doing double the work. When someone asks you a question in English, your brain does 4 different things. First, you hear the English words. Second, you translate those words into your native language to understand them. Third, you think of your answer in your native language. And finally, you translate that answer back into English so you can speak.
Just listening to you explain those 4 steps makes me feel exhausted. And that is exactly what it is. It is mentally exhausting. When you do all those steps, there is a long delay. In English, we call this a lag. A lag is a delay between when something happens and when you react. If you have a long lag in a conversation, the other person might think you do not understand them.
That is so true, and I think that lag creates a lot of panic. When there is a silence in the conversation, the learner feels nervous. They start sweating, their heart beats faster, and then they completely forget the words.
I have a personal story about this from when I was learning Spanish a few years ago. I went to a coffee shop in Madrid. I had practiced my order in my hotel room. But when the barista asked me a simple question about the size of my coffee, I panicked. I heard his Spanish words and I started translating them to English in my head. I thought, okay, he said large or small. I want large. How do I say large? My brain was working so hard to translate that I just stood there in silence for 10 seconds.
10 seconds is a very long time in a real conversation. What did you do?
I just pointed at the biggest cup and said yes in Spanish. I felt so embarrassed. I knew the words, but the translation process blocked my ability to speak naturally.
Thank you for sharing that, James. It shows that even English teachers struggle with this when learning new languages. The feeling of embarrassment is very common. I want to share a story about a student of mine named Maria. Maria is a brilliant business manager. In her native language, she is confident, she is smart, and she is a great leader. But she came to me crying one day after a business meeting in English. She told me she felt stupid. She said that her boss asked her for her opinion on a project, and she had so many good ideas in her head. But because she was trying to translate her complex business ideas from her native language into English, the words would not come out right. She sounded like a beginner, even though her English was actually very good.
That breaks my heart because I hear stories like that all the time. Our intelligence does not disappear when we speak English. We just lose our voice because the translation process acts like a wall. So how did you help Maria break down that wall? How do we actually stop this habit of translating?
The first thing we need to accept is that you cannot stop translating overnight. It is a habit, and breaking a habit takes time. But the best way to start is by building direct connections between English words and the real world. The first practical tip I give to all my B1 students is to start labeling their environment. And I do not mean just putting sticky notes on your furniture, though that can be helpful for beginners. For B1 learners, you need to do this in your mind. When you look at a window, do not think of the word for window in your language. Just look at the glass and think window. Look at your shoes and think shoes.
I love that tip. You are removing the middleman. You are connecting the visual image directly to the English sound. And you can do this everywhere. When you are sitting on the train going to work, just look out the window and name the things you see in English. Tree, car, dog, building. Do not translate, just name them.
Yes, exactly. And once you are comfortable with single words, you need to move to the next level. This is my second big tip. You need to start narrating your actions. Narrating means telling a story about what is happening. So, when you are alone at home, talk to yourself in English about what you are doing. Use simple sentences.
Could you give our listeners an example of how to narrate their actions?
Absolutely. Let us imagine you are making breakfast. While you are doing it, think or speak out loud in English. Say, I am opening the fridge, I am taking out the eggs, I am turning on the stove. The pan is getting hot. By doing this, you are forcing your brain to use English in real time. There is no time to translate because the action is happening right now.
That is a fantastic exercise because it uses the present continuous tense naturally. It also helps you realize which everyday vocabulary words you are missing. For example, if you are making breakfast and you do not know the word for spatula, you will realize it immediately. Then you can learn that specific word because it is relevant to your real life.
That is a great point, James. And that leads me directly to a very serious rule I give my students. If you want to stop translating, you have to stop using bilingual dictionaries.
Oh, that is a tough rule for a lot of learners. A bilingual dictionary is a dictionary that translates from English to your native language. Why do you tell students to stop using them?
Because a bilingual dictionary keeps your brain addicted to translation. It trains your brain to believe that every English word has a perfect partner in your native language, but languages do not work like that. Many English words cannot be translated perfectly, so I tell my B1 students to switch to an English to English dictionary. A learner dictionary is best.
That is such an important step. When you use an English to English dictionary, you read a simple explanation of the word instead of a direct translation. Let us use the word umbrella as an example. If you look it up in a bilingual dictionary, you just see your native word. But if you look it up in an English dictionary, you read, an object you hold over your head to keep you dry when it rains. Reading that English description helps your brain stay in English mode. You are learning the concept, not the translation.
Exactly. It forces you to think about the meaning. And if the dictionary explanation is too difficult, there is another amazing trick. Use the image search on your phone. If you hear the word helicopter and you do not know what it is, do not type it into a translation app. Type it into an image search. When you see the picture of the flying machine, your brain will instantly connect the English word helicopter to the image.
That image trick is brilliant. It uses the visual part of the brain, which is much faster than the translation part. I used that exact trick when I was trying to improve my vocabulary for cooking. I searched for pictures of different vegetables instead of translating them. It made a huge difference. Now, when I see a carrot, I just think of the word carrot. I do not think of the word in my native language at all.
That shows how adaptable the human brain is. Your brain is like a muscle. If you train it to translate, it will become very good at translating. If you train it to look at images and think in English, it will learn to think in English.
We have talked about single words and simple actions. But what about having real conversations? How can a learner stop translating when they are speaking to a native speaker and the conversation is moving very fast?
That is the ultimate challenge. When you are in a real conversation, the pressure is very high. My best advice for this situation is to learn and memorize conversational filler phrases.
Fillers are so useful. Could you explain what a filler phrase is for our listeners who might not know?
Of course, A filler phrase is a short expression we use to give ourselves time to think. Native speakers use them all the time. Phrases like, "That is an interesting question," or "Let me think about that for a second," or "Well, to be honest." When you memorize these phrases, you can say them automatically without thinking. This gives your brain 3 or 4 extra seconds to prepare your real answer in English without any awkward silence.
That is an incredible strategy. It removes the panic. If someone asks you a difficult question, you do not need to freeze. You just smile and say, I have never thought about that before. Let me see. While your mouth is saying those automatic words, your brain is relaxing and finding the English words for your actual answer. It makes you sound so much more fluent and natural.
Yes, it completely changes the dynamic of the conversation. And there is another important tip for conversations. You need to focus on the message, not the grammar. Many students translate because they want their sentence to be grammatically perfect. They think about the rules of their native language, and they try to build the perfect English sentence in their head before they speak.
Trying to be perfect is the enemy of fluency. When you are speaking, perfection does not matter. Communication matters. If you say, "Yesterday I go to the store," instead of "Yesterday I went to the store," the grammar is wrong. But guess what? The other person still understands you completely. They know you went to the store.
Exactly. Native speakers make grammar mistakes when they speak, too. We forget words, we mix up our tenses, and we sometimes stop in the middle of a sentence and start over. If you give yourself permission to make mistakes, the heavy pressure disappears. And when the pressure disappears, your brain stops relying on translation as a safety net.
I want to add one more daily habit that our listeners can start today to help them think in English. It is a listening habit. When you listen to English podcasts, like this one, or watch English movies, you must stop trying to translate every single word you hear. Many learners pause the video every 10 seconds to look up a word.
Oh, yes. That ruins the enjoyment of the movie, and it trains your brain to focus on individual words instead of the overall meaning.
Exactly. Instead of pausing, try to guess the meaning of the word from the context. If an actor looks angry and slams a door while shouting a word you do not know, you can guess that it is a word expressing anger or frustration. Let the English wash over you. Accept that you might only understand 70% of what is being said. That is perfectly fine. The goal is immersion, not a perfect translation exam.
Immersion is the key word there. You have to surround yourself with English. The more English you put into your brain through listening and reading, the more English will naturally come out when you speak. Let us quickly summarize the main tips we have given today, so our listeners can remember them easily.
Good idea. Tip number 1 was to label your environment. Look at things around you and think of their English names directly. No middleman.
Tip number 2 was to narrate your actions. Talk to yourself in simple English while you are cooking, cleaning, or walking. Describe what you are doing in real time.
Tip number 3 was to throw away your bilingual dictionary. Switch to an English to English dictionary or use image searches to learn new words.
Tip number 4 was to use conversational filler phrases to buy yourself time to think during fast conversations.
And the final tip was to let go of perfection. Focus on the message, not the grammar, and try to understand the context when listening instead of translating every word.
Those are very powerful tools. If you are listening to this right now and you feel discouraged because you always translate in your head, please do not be hard on yourself. Every single fluent English speaker who started as a learner used to translate in their head too. It is a completely normal stage of language learning. You are not stuck. You just need to change your daily habits.
Absolutely. It takes courage to learn a new language. The fact that you are listening to a full podcast in English right now proves that you are dedicated and capable. Try using just one of these tips today. Start small. Maybe just look around your room right now and name 5 things in English. You will be surprised by how quickly your brain adapts.
Your brain wants to communicate. If you feed it enough English and trust the process, the translation habit will slowly fade away. One day, you will wake up and realize you just had a dream entirely in English. That is always the most exciting milestone for my students. When you start dreaming in English, you know the language has finally become a part of you.
I still remember my first dream in a foreign language. It felt like magic. It is proof that your subconscious mind is doing the work behind the scenes. So keep practicing, keep making mistakes, and keep talking to yourself in the shower. It might sound crazy, but it works.
It definitely works. Thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. We hope this conversation gave you the practical tools and the motivation you need to stop translating and start thinking in English.
We are cheering for you. Have a fantastic day, keep practicing, and we will catch you in the next episode.